Hello scholars, Nefertari and Kenjay back with your week 9, lesson 41 distance learning lesson. From today's video, this is the structure you can expect. A list of the resources and materials you will need for the lesson. A brief overview of the learning of the day. A modeling of the reading, thinking, speaking, and writing, and a preview of upcoming lessons. Here's a weekly snapshot of what we're doing today. Yesterday we engaged in a close read that examined imagery and mood. Well, today we're still going to focus on imagery and mood, but more importantly, we're going to look at a new element as we close read. We're going to closely read this poem, Annabel Lee, looking at the concept of an unreliable narrator. Remember that after you complete the lesson activities of the day, you should always share your learning with a family member, friend, or a caregiver, complete the weekly fluency activity, and then do at least 20 minutes of additional reading every day. It's time for our riddle of the day. I am a word of 5, spelled and read the same way backward and forward. The mother of all takes her position at the center of me. My first and last letters are found in letters and flatters. That's a great clue. The letters in common in the word letters and flatters are the letters L, then T, then R, then E. So many choices. Anyway, what am I? What do you think, scholars? Let's reveal that answer. I am level. Okay, that makes sense. And here we can see the photo of an actual level tool that can be used in your home in order to make sure that pictures are hung up in a way that they are level with one another. And you can also use it in constructing buildings or different items. The materials you'll need for this lesson are as follows. This is lesson 41. You'll need your note catcher. You can reread the text on pages 110 and 111, or you can choose to go to this optional YouTube link and listen to the read aloud of Edgar Allan Poe's poem, Annabel Lee. You'll also need a pencil. To quickly introduce this week's focus, let's remind ourselves of the guiding questions. Do we determine our own destinies, and do we have to accept our destinies? Here's our learning target for today, lesson 41. I can close read a poem for qualities of the narrator, and I can support my claims with evidence from the text. Today we'll start by rereading the poem. As you reread, pay attention to what you learn about the narrator. Then think about how in life sometimes you can believe the story you're being told, and then at other times, we know they're lying. Is this narrator reliable or unreliable? You decide, scholars. Then talk with a friend or a family member about what it means to be an unreliable narrator. And then that prepares us for our writing activities. This is what we should do when we think today. As we reread the poem, we'll focus on the narrator or the speaker of the poem to determine if they're unreliable. What does unreliable mean? Well, it means that their credibility is somehow compromised. We simply don't believe them. And why is their credibility compromised? It's their emotions. Their emotions get in the way of them telling a story that we believe. This makes them an unreliable narrator. Also, as you read, think about whether the narrator of Annabel Lee is reliable, unreliable, and why. And consider whether you think this narrator is sharing the real story of what happened to Annabel Lee. Let me show you how I managed a closer read of the text here. By rereading the first two stanzas, it appears to me that the narrator is unreliable. Let's see. The narrator's voice in mind, I can already see some signs of unreliability. Let's look at lines 5 and 6 in the first stanza. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. There are elements of reliability, but there are also elements of unreliability in this poem. For example, how do you know the woman is preoccupied with no other thought than to love and be loved by me? Since this is not Annabel Lee telling her own story, but the man, perhaps the author, Edgar Allan Poe, giving his viewpoint, we have to determine whether or not we want to accept that as truth. Then we go down to the second stanza. Even though they were children, and this suggests that this was merely a childhood crush and not a deep loving relationship at all, the narrator is pretty reliable when he shows the depth of his feelings, and he offers powerful emotions with this line, I and my Annabel Lee. You decide. You'll finish up your lesson by talking and writing. When you talk, explain to your friend or family member what it means to be an unreliable narrator now that you understand what that means. And share your thoughts about what you think the narrator of Annabel Lee is. Is he or she reliable or unreliable? Then ask your family member if they can think of a book, a movie, or a television show where the narrator or the storyteller was unreliable. Did the unreliable narrator make them like the story more or less? We'll finish up our activities of the day with a writing activity. You're going to complete the chart with a few sentences sharing evidence that the narrator is reliable and sharing evidence that the narrator is unreliable. So, in other words, scholars, in order to keep us all honest, we're going to find examples of the ways that the narrative voice of this poem is both reliable and unreliable. So, using this chart in the note catcher, let's just jot down a few sentences and use evidence from the text to explain why you feel the narrator is reliable and why you don't believe the narrator to be reliable. In other words, you think he or she is unreliable. If you have questions, don't hesitate to email your ELA teacher for support. And as a preview of what's next to come in our lessons, we will analyze the poem for its themes, and we'll continue to support our claims with evidence from the text. Thank you for learning with me today. I look forward to teaching with you again soon, but until then, here's your reminders. Don't forget to talk about your lesson with someone, read for 20 minutes every day, and complete your reading log, which can be found at the front of your packet, and then practice your reading fluency activity using the first or second page of your weekly reading. Thank you. Bye-bye.